of
Recording in
Dharma.
progress.
May I perfect the qualities of the levels and paths, and thus swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, let's just do the four limitless contemplations. Okay, that's fine. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jen tam che dewa tang dewe ju tang den ba ju jig dungal chi chu tang tra wa ju chik dungal mepe dewa tampa tang mindra wa ju chik nerin chak tang ni tang tra we tang nom chempo la ne pa ju chik. Okay, so on this Monday morning, it's so nice to see all your faces. We're going to do the golden letters, realizing the essential profound Dharma, part 12. And I thought when I looked at the parts, oh, just hang on, I'm going to just switch that off. Right. Can you see me properly, everybody? Okay. So I thought to myself, part 12, that's a lot of parts for people to go through. But you know what? I was going to finish today because next week we won't have a group. But then I thought, you know what? To rush through this when it's really the essence of everything is so stupid. What's the rush? Because this incorporates everything. As you can see from the Kunta Zangpo prayer, those of you who did it, that there is so much there, the same as what I'm teaching. It's just all in a beautiful, it's all in a beautiful format. So Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche said, a great master once said, all the thousands of books and scriptures which are taught about the Buddha Dharma are for the sole purpose of realizing these three vital points of Garab Dorje. Now that's so important because these three are being, your nature of mind being pointed out to you, then deciding definitively to go for that, and then having confidence in the liberation, the self-liberation of everything, is everything you ever need in any religion, in anything. That's all you actually need, whichever way you go. So I agree with him, I really do. And he says in his one article, the three words striking the vital point, this is Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, he says, Buddha nature. Now, if you don't want to call it Buddha nature, especially to other people, you can call it awakened nature. I don't like using the word higher consciousness. If you want to use that word, then rather use primordial consciousness, because when you use higher consciousness, in all those other, different kinds of religions and God, they call it, oh, your higher self, your higher consciousness. Why I don't like that word is because I feel to myself that makes it like there's a higher consciousness, okay? Then there's your ordinary consciousness. That doesn't tell you the ordinary consciousness is part of that primordial consciousness, just a different path that you're taking, but it's the same. So it's really important that you understand, that he calls it Buddha nature, call it awakened nature, whatever you want to call it, primordial consciousness, is the very basis or source from which all worlds and living beings, whatever appears and exists, originates from that. How is the Buddha nature? He says, just two sentences. It is empty in essence and cognizant, that means aware by nature, and its capacity is endowed with a core of self-existing awareness. This is the universal ground from which everything arises. That's it. Nothing more to be said about it. It's really very important. So my little story for this morning, I think it gets harder and harder to tell stories when you get to that teaching, because it's so beautiful, like there aren't words to describe it. I've loved this story. You've probably heard it before, but it doesn't matter. It's short. A blackbird found a large piece of food in the village and lit out into the sky with the food in its beak. A flock of his brothers chased after him and raucously attacked the food, pulling it from his beak. The blackbird finally let go of the last piece, and the frenzied flock left him alone. The bird swooped and died and thought, I have lost the food, but I have regained the peaceful sky. Now that's it. That's it, because this story tells us about the effortless path that the masters of Dzogchen tried to explain to us without lots of words. We want so many words because Sem, our human part of our mind, wants to understand. I don't know why I point there, because Sem isn't even there. Because, I mean, La Milena was talking about how people think thoughts come from the brain. I mean, the brain's got nothing to do with it. The brain is just the organ through which the ordinary mind manifests. But when people have Alzheimer's and they're suddenly going to die, and so now sometimes their nature of mind takes over when they resist everything, and then they can talk again. And that's without the brain. The brain's totally finished. Just think about that. It's very, very interesting, because when you die and the human consciousness dies, you can talk again. Okay, but why do they do that? It's when we stop interfering, analyzing, controlling, desiring everything to be the way our ego's agenda goes, which we've just seen in that prayer, and we finally let things be. Then we regain, re-know, and recognize the peaceful blue sky of our essence. When we're not pulling, I've got to do this, and I feel terrible about this, and I hate this, and this person's done this to me, and that grudge. When we're finished with all of that, like the bird, we regain the peaceful sky of our essence. But how do we let go of hanging on to the different expressions of our true nature, especially the perverse expressions, which is how we are, when we're fiercely protecting ourselves and what we think belongs to us, like our families, our children? It is our responsibility karmically to look after what we've been entrusted with. But to what extent, when we begin to see that what is going on in our lives are just the reflections of the mirror of our minds and not some punishment that's bestowed on us? If we get that, I tell it to people over and over again, and I tell it to lots of non-Buddhist people, and because when I'm doing it, when I hear, I was explaining to someone last week who said, when they look back on their lives, there were so many things they were so angry about that happened to them from childhood, and they couldn't help being angry because look at what the parents did to this person and what happened. I explained about mirror-like wisdom, and this was not to a Buddhist person, of which was anger was the perversion, and that the mirror shows us we are responsible for those situations that created anger. We actually create the people that are in front of us that make us angry. We create them with our mind. If we didn't have that creation in our mind, there'd be no reflection in front of you. Now, you could debate this with me. You can fight with me over it as well, but it's really, really true. And so when we understand this even a little bit, or explain it to people who don't understand it, the best is if we could see these situations as a great opportunity and have a different view of them. It's our ordinary mind, Sem, that creates duality. What is the meaning of duality? It means you are outside of me. This is outside of me. This thought that I'm thinking, maybe whatever I'm thinking right now, if I'm annoyed, if I'm upset, or whatever the case is dualistic. It's there. There's the thought. Now I need to go in for the jugular and fix that thought or do something about it. that duality, when we see it outside ourselves, okay, is what creates all the problems, when actually there's no separation between us. If you look at the Sambhogakaya and Dharmakaya level, when they teach you what happens there, they always say the disciples are the creation of the mind of the master. Now you are a creation of my mind, and I'm a creation of your mind. If you were not ready to receive that, you wouldn't be here. Do you understand? You created the fact, you created me, because that's what you needed. So you create, so when we see there's no separation between our world and our thoughts and our feeling, between us and the world and our thoughts and feeling, none of these reflections are concrete, permanent, or anything to do with what we are and who we are. Nothing whatsoever. And they're just our creations from when we were acting ignorantly. Now, if you listen to the Kunta Zangpo prayer, it says, oh, when you become all fighting, and you really are, and you really find people are enemies and you're competing with them, boom, you're in the jealous God realm straight away. The realm isn't there, it's there inside you. You're in the jealous God realm. And in the jealous God realm, you will create this duality of jealousy. I'm jealous. Don't go out with anyone else. I don't want you to. And you'll fight with that person because they seem to be cheating on you in some way or whatever they're doing. That's a jealous God realm. We created it. It never was true. We went on a path that deluded us. And that's why we got lost in that path. And that's what the whole prayer of Kunta Zangpo is all about. It's really about that. So I'm going to open it up in a minute. So Garab Dorje's 3 vital points teach us to have confidence in our awakened mind and to always focus on the view, which then allows everything we think is outside of us to just liberate and go back into the essence. I mean, everything naturally arises from the essence, whether it's a beautiful thing, a pure thing, or an impure thing. It arises from our essence and naturally, automatically dissolves back into the essence. We wouldn't run after a wave in the ocean and say, oh my goodness, I've got to put this wave back into the ocean. You know, there's a wave and I must see that it doesn't go into the buildings. I must push it back. Even if it's a tsunami, it's going to go back into the ocean. We can't go running after it. Yet with our things, okay, we run after them all the time. We run after whatever we've got, trying to put it back instead of just allowing it to be. That's something very deep to think about. It just was coming to me like that. And in ordinary meditation, in Buddhism, we distinguish between the still mind, which we get in shamatha, and every single teacher you go to will say, still the mind. When Taisitu Rinpoche looked at my mind, he said, you just go and do shamatha, 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 okay? Still your mind. Now, what is the difference between shamatha and the Dzogchen practice of trekchö? A big difference. Because the Dzogchen practice of trekchö is, it doesn't matter whether your mind is still or it's moving with thoughts. It doesn't make a difference. They're both the same, just as long as we do not interfere with them. Shamatha is you go into a non-thought state. You fixate on something and you try and let all your thoughts go, and you go into this absolutely pure, not pure state, into an absolutely still mind. But if we stop there, we would not get to our nature. we would just have a clear pool. In Trekchor, as Karen will tell you, in Trekchor, you actually have the awareness of the stillness, and it doesn't make any difference if there are thoughts, because the moving mind is when you're thinking, and that's called in Buddhist language vipassana, looking into the moving mind, what's happening. That's another thing. But in Dzogchen, we don't distinguish between the still mind and the moving mind. We don't distinguish. Why? Because it's all non-meditation, or if you want to call it contemplation, that's fine. Once we are introduced to the nature of mind, then it doesn't matter whether mind is with or without thoughts. We understand the nature of the thoughts. They're the same as the essence. The waves are the same as same as the ocean. All your thoughts and feelings are the same as your essence, okay? And so if we realize that at that moment, they liberate by themselves. They self-liberated, okay? As long as we don't follow them, analyze them, make plans about them, attach to them, it doesn't really matter. And your Lamalena, Karen says, we just keep recognizing their nature and have confidence in their self-liberation. This is what Garab Dorje taught, the 3 vital points for life. And Lamalena says, eventually, we can practice identifying with that while we're doing hectic exercise. She says, when we're drunk, when we're stoned, okay, any of these, we can still recognize our awareness. It doesn't make any difference because you realize your absolute natural state. And we just keep practicing to become aware of Rigpa. That's what we do all the time, over and over again. So any questions on this? And I'm just going to give you 2 quotes, and we go back to the silver book, because that's what's there. I'm just taking my own things about it to try and help you put it into words that you can use. And I love it. I love the fact that we've got this. I love the fact that we are taught this. God, what a mess the world is. And if we weren't taught this, we'd want to jump off the nearest building, you know. So anyone want to ask or say anything, please do, and get your confusions out. If you don't ask, then you'll never know. Or comment. Anyone. You're all very brilliant. You've never got any questions about it, okay? No one got anything they want to say. You sure? Okay, well, it means you get something. After all my hacking to death about all of this, you must get something about it. But don't you get sick of my voice after a while?
No.
Evelyn says no, okay. I would get so sick of it. I'd want to hear a bit of my own voice after a while. Okay, so what does James Lowe actually say? I want to read you a quote from his Being Guru Rinpoche. I'm trying to take things that are very practical before I take the silver book, because I think that it helps you to really understand. In reality, he says, the 3 kayas, the Dharma kaya, Sambhaka kaya, and Nirmana kaya, are a kind of experience. Dharma kaya like the sky, but not just the sky, an opening sense of awareness present. Nothing is going on, but there's awareness. The only way I can explain this to you, how I do it, is from my room here. That's why I don't like the curtain, because I can see the sky, the absolute sky. Now, if you look at the blue sky, but if you look very carefully with your eyes 3/4, you'll start seeing the Vajra chains. Those are the awareness in the sky. You'll start seeing there maybe even other colors. And that is, so the essence is not just plain, it's actually got awareness pulsating in it. And you are able to see that awareness with your physical eyes, because it comes from this channel through and into your eyes, and you can use your actual physical eyes to see those things. And it starts off with these little Vajra chains that you see in the sky, absolutely exquisite, you know. It starts off with that, and then it goes deeper. He says, we don't hold emptiness apart from manifestation. The goal is not emptiness. It's the integration of emptiness with the manifestation. The thought arises out of emptiness. We are not disturbed. When we are not disturbed by the thought, he says, this is nirvana. Nirvana is not some place where you go like in Mauritius and you absolutely love the scenery. Nirvana is when you're not disturbed by your thoughts anymore. Then he goes, if you think a thought arises from somewhere else or is self-existing, separate from the ground, this is samsara. That's the difference between nirvana and samsara. If we understand this, then the meaning of the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya become clearer. The Sambhogakaya, what is it? It comes out of the Dharmakaya. He says it's the richness of the manifestation, the pure manifestation, comes in form or sound, rays of light, 5 colored rays coming out of the seed syllable. He says, where is Padmasambhava? Where is Zandopaldri, his beautiful Buddha field? Okay, he says, our own nature is in this infinite mandala, which is a manifestation of the energy of our mind. Now, if you're writing questions to burn in the middle of this, then you are distracted by your thoughts. Okay, if you're writing questions, which I can see they come up on my thing, then it means you're really busy. You've got Burns' number, you can text her, but concentrate. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time trying to give you this in my own words and James Lowe's words, okay? Padmasambhava is an aspect of us. We are an aspect of Padmasambhava. That's our view that we take refuge in, okay? And in refuge, you trust that all you have is required for enlightenment is right there. It's so hard to stop because we want to go on to get there. The momentum to go is what is traditionally called karma. Although we are already there in the view of Dzogchen, we use the tantric activities, becoming Guru Rinpoche, becoming Kunta Zangpo, becoming all of these things, to keep the momentum of wanting to do something to realize the 3 kayas. Attachment is what makes us human. In Buddhism, being human is not such a great thing. It's the best of samsara, but often when I look at my little doggies, you know, and I'm really getting this yeshi, he's got to go back into a human incarnation. So I often have these little chats to him and I go, you know what, my boy, you've got to be a human. As soon as you die, I'm going to see that you go back from the animal realm to the human realm. And I'll tell you why. You definitely won't be able to lie in the sun in winter all day and have Nelly to do the prayers for you and have all these beautiful bones given to you, okay? You're not going to have that. Trust me, okay? But you are going to have an opportunity for enlightenment, okay? It's so important you all understand this, okay? Because he's got to go from that animal realm. Because I often look at him and think, you can't make your own decisions. I make them for you. When you're in the human realm, you can make your own decisions. You can decide to get enlightened. And I said, and you better, after lying in my space for all these years, okay, you better get it and go there, okay? He says, in Buddhism, being human is not such a great thing. Being human is just a temporary hotel you're staying in, and being a good human being is not what life's about. Being enlightened is what life's about. Everything's about your causes. It's very true. I'm just trying to give you some stuff to put this into your everyday language, but your silence could be good or it could be bad. I'm not going to try and assess it, okay? If you want to know something, you have to ask, and don't ever be scared to ask or comment, because that's the way you learn. Even if I say, no, 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 whatever, it's okay. And James Lowe says we need to work out what kind of practice will make sense to us. And when you commit to doing it, we should try and stay there, he says, because the divorce rate of practice is very high in ordinary life and Dharma practice. We keep changing, thinking, this practice will be good, I must do it. And, you know, we really need to do it. He says in modern Western cultures, we're trained to get what we want. In Eastern cultures, not so much now, but before, people were trained to want what they got because they understood it was for a reason, okay? And he says, when you do the 7-line prayer of Guru Rinpoche, it's vital, but always to see all the different levels. He says, externally, Padmasambhava is this powerful presence, an enlightened being, and we ask for his blessing. But you can ask and ask and ask for his blessing. He says, 2 forces have to be there. His presence and our wanting it to happen and come together. Those 2 have to come together. We have to want it with all our being. And when those 2 come together, then inwardly, he's our true nature hidden from us. And he says it's really important to do that. Okay, I'm not going to do the other quote because it take too long, but I try and give you quotes so that you actually understand what we are looking at. We are trying to find the essence of ourselves and know that that essence expresses itself in 2 ways. Sambhokakaya, the pure way of expressing it, and Nirmanakaya, the compassionate energy to help all other people to get there. It's really important, all of this for you. And then we go back to the golden letters. Anybody want anything from me? I'm happy if you're all happy, because you know what? It's a special group, this. And a lot of you are here because this is what you've got to get in this lifetime. It's really important, because if you don't get this, you're going to be just ambling through life another 20 lifetimes before you awaken. Okay. And then you're going to be crying that you're so unhappy because there's so much karma and you don't understand. This person was saying to me, I just don't understand. I got to the wrong parents, Melon. Said, the wrong parents were the right parents. That's why they made you angry, because you needed to get rid of that. And when you understand that, when you see that all is just as it needs to be, even me, with this, that we can't find a place that's suitable for us to live in. And, you know, I really look at it in many ways as a blessing, even though it's driving me absolutely nuts to not have anything of mine. It's like what's happened is all my possessions and the things that I love to have in my home are all taken away from me. And why they're taken away from me for such a long, I expected that I would come into this place temporarily and I would automatically, it would work so quickly, I would find the place. And we would have bought a place which would have been wrong for us. And for really peculiar reasons, we were stopped from buying that place, which is very interesting, because that was the universe's way of protecting me. Because if I would have bought that, there would have been a lot of problems for us. And so we were stopped from buying it. And now, what's the conclusion that I come to? You know, I've made my husband bring a few of my books. I've got them in plastic containers on the floor. So when new people come to me for sessions, it's in the same room and they look. you can see their eyebrows are raised, is this how you live kind of thing. But you know what? Maybe this is my very deepest learning of non-attachment. And funny, I don't even care about the kitchen thing. What I care about are my books. Why? Not because it's the only thing I do, but when I'm teaching you, I like to go to my books and look up things, all the time that I really need to. So when I don't have my books, it's really hard. I've got to find everything inside me. But then again, is that what this is for? Yeah, Mimi. So,
yeah, no, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to go back to, it was so beautifully expressed by Lo, when you said the Sambhogakaya and the Dharmakaya, that's the richness of our pure manifestation. Can you just go over those few lines about the 5 rays? It was so beautifully put. Just a little way back.
You see, when we look at the Sambhogakaya, that is the pure expression from the essence. Okay, the Sambhogakaya is the pure expression. And when we're looking at the pure expression, it's 5 wisdoms, 5 Buddha families, 5 male masculine Buddhas, which are not masculine Buddhas. They're the masculine energy of the different wisdoms, 5 female Buddhas, and so on and so forth. All the 5s that I'm teaching about on the Tuesday night. And those of you that are in Australia can really go and get those teachings easily. They're available. But when you look at that, if you can't see the pure expression of the Sambhogakaya, then you go into the 5 poisons, the 5 skandhas, form, feelings, perceptions, habits, and conditioning. All the 5s of what the 5 course elements, all those things, that's all we can see. We can't actually see the in the Sambhogakaya level, okay? And so we go, and then the Nirmanakaya is when that pure energy is taken by beings, like you heard Kunta Zampo saying, I have millions of manifestations. They manifest in the Nirmanakaya level, which is pure. It's where you see the pure state of the Buddha fields, but they're in the impure, where we are all seeing an impure state. So it's just their absolute compassion that makes them return over and over and over again to give us the teaching. I mean, sometimes I look at these masters, okay, and I think to myself, how did you come back in a body like Dajjal Rinpoche and Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Patrul Rinpoche? They all come back and back and back. Now, they can see the purity of the Sambhogakaya level, but they also need to know the impure coarse state of this, what we can see impure level, but doesn't mean it's an impure state. It means we can't see the purity. That's what it means, which is really important. Go on, Mim.
Yeah, no, that is all clear. So would you say this mandala that's created is the expression of our perfect essence?
Yes, absolutely. The mandala is the expression of our perfect essence, and each mandala, when it's expressed as the perfect essence, becomes a Buddha field. But if we think the Buddha field is there, it's not. It's inside you is the Buddha field. And it becomes a Buddha field. So this impure land, as the Buddha said, it's not my fault, Sariputra, if you can't see that this is a pure land. It's yours. Get off your path of delusion and you'll see it. And I'm so irritated with myself in not being able to see that. But I'm training and training and training and training and looking and looking and looking and sitting and looking with my eyes half closed. Tasitu Rinpoche said to me, open your eyes for 10 minutes, then semi-close your eyes for 10 minutes, and then close them for 10 minutes and come back to the open again. That's what he taught me, to do it that way. I find that when I go like this with my eyes, I see the best, really the best, when I go like this with my eyes. Because then I'm not so much seeing the physicality of the impure thing. I'm seeing the pure essence of it. Okay, Mim?
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm so happy if you ask me, because we're going back now to a Patrick Rinpoche's commentary commented by John Myrtle Reynolds. And it's really important, because last week I was telling you, we were talking about all the gurus, how he finds them, what they are. And then we were talking about the state of contemplation that is given. And we were talking about the guru yoga given in the 4 empowerments. The last one is called the word empowerment. And the word empowerment is given to you mostly symbolically by the master. That when I got the word empowerment, I didn't even know I was getting it. I'm just assuming that I got it because I didn't know what was going on. And that's often our case. We don't know what these masters are giving us because we are ignorant. But eventually that transmission starts awakening in us if we follow the path and follow everything. So Dzogchen is dissolving your mental activities, not getting rid of them. That's what we were talking about last time. Dissolving them into your essence. This is so very, very, very important. And one of the points we made last week is you've got to learn to relax your physical body. It is essential. Because as soon as you are not relaxed, you are charged with psychic energy, says Patrul Rinpoche, and it overwhelms our consciousness, and you will be endlessly distracted if you are charged with psychic energy. It's really important because, to facilitate recognition, the gross discursive thoughts must be allowed to settle and clarify of themselves. And then your mind is calm and clear. So the first thing when you're doing this meditation is to check if ever there is any tension in your body. I know there are various places I carry tension in the bottom of my back, and that means it's where you are supported by your body. So you have to become really mindful to sit up straight and not have that lower back pain, which I often do. Okay. And so if we are having trouble, which I'm not going to do again, but if we are having trouble with settling our minds, then you use the white R. And I want this to be practical for all of you. So you really practice this so that you really start developing yourselves. And Lama Lena says, just practice and practice and practice and practice. You've got 5 minutes, you're waiting in a doctor's room, practice. Nobody can see, but in the beginning, try and have your spinal column straight so that you bring the energy and you relax that psychic energy. It's really, really important for this, okay? Because if you interfere with your thoughts, if you start, let's say you have a thought, oh my goodness, I need to go shopping and get this. That's a stupid thought, but let's just say you have that. And then you start to say, oh, I think I'll go to this shop. I'll probably get it there. And you're distracted. Now, when I watched you this morning, I'm trying my utmost to give you, everybody's typing things for Bern to give the Kuntazanko. That means your mind is distracted. Now you've got to immediately become aware, because to do this, you have to see that your mind is not wandering. It doesn't mean getting rid of thoughts. It means getting rid of your attachment and involvement with your thoughts. Can you all understand that? Nod if you can understand what I'm saying, because it's vital if you want to do this Dzogchen contemplation. It's really very important. He says, if you have interference in your thoughts by yourself, You absorb the same amount of energy as the effort to repress. If repressed, it's charged with sufficient energy to cause a disturbance in the future, even though you're not conscious of it. So you really need to be conscious. And then he talks about trekchor, which is Karen's favorite practice. She might want to comment. Trekchor requires no skill that we don't already possess, says John Murnell Reynolds. He says, relaxing the tension allows everything to be free. That's all you want to do. You want to be free. So like as Lama Lena, and I was listening to her pointing out, doing the Garab Dorje teaching, she says, once you know, once you get the feel of your true nature, once you have, the only way I can explain it the few times I've got it is that you really feel a lightness of being. Nothing is a big problem. You feel absolutely light, okay? It's not physical light, but you just feel everything's got a purpose. It's almost like the world just comes into its shape. And just for that moment when you recognize, we know, it feels like everything is just right. And when you're going through a bad time, that is so important that you actually have that moment where you feel that lightness of being, even though a lot of things are going on in your life. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand, which is really important, because it doesn't matter what you're going through. He says, it's so simple. It's almost too simple. And that's why we can't understand it very well. He says, relax and be aware, totally alert, but effortlessness. He said, the mind settles without interference and the clear light dawns. Now, for you, Mimi, that sentence in Tulku Urgent's Dzogchen deity practice is the sentence, may illumination arise as wisdom. So when you're relaxed and the clear light dawns, you see it, you feel it in your being. And then 5 minutes later, you're back into your habitual world, okay? But then you remember that and you come back and you do it again and you do it again and you do it again. And eventually, she says, you can be doing the most hectic exercise and you see it. You start seeing it very, very often. You're in a place and suddenly you go, oh. And then you're back to your habits again. And then you're back to all your rubbish again. And then you're back to your thinking again. But for a minute, now, Iga, I've seen you actually have that several times. You'll suddenly say to me, Melanie, I just became aware of this. That's when you have it. Now you've got to put more of those and less of the other, why this, why that, where's this, what's that, oh, I'm desperate, oh, I'm this. I know this from my own experience. Yesterday, we got some news that was really quite difficult news, okay? And I could see the whole day my husband was totally thrown by it. And I could see that I was not thrown by it. I was very aware that I got the news, but I was not thrown one iota. And I could see the difference in us. It's really important because all the things you go through, all the stuff you have to tolerate in your mind, like a lot of us are getting older and some of us are separated from spouses. Some of our spouses are getting older. We're facing, the immortality of our lives. And there's only one thing you need. And that is that awareness, that knowing And that's what the trekchor is about, sitting and just knowing. Nothing is really happening. You're watching what's happening. It dissolves, it liberates, but you are there, present and aware. Is that helpful to all of you to be able to understand? It's called Rigpa, and Rigpa is absolutely there. And when I go into things later, what is very important for us to understand, I'm going ahead of what I'm teaching, but this is one of the important sentences that I want you to understand. And I would like everybody to write this sentence down, if you can. Awareness did not come into being out of existence. Awareness did not come into being out of existence. But existence came into being out of awareness. One of your most important key sentences. Awareness did not come into being out of existence, but existence came into being out of awareness. And what does it mean? It means that your awareness, your rigpa, your nature of mind, your absolute awareness was always there. And from it, from the essence, came all the things, your thoughts, your feelings, your possessions, your families, your children, your everything, out of your awareness. But we get it wrong. We think that existence created awareness. If I have a really good existence, then my awareness will come. Nonsense. Awareness came before the existence. And existence came of the creation of rigpa, or awareness. Ponder that sentence. Because if you do, you'll get these things are to get what is going on. So awareness is what we want all the time, okay? And that's why sometimes we do the concentration on the I for a little bit, just to train the mind, and then drop it and just be in space. And when your thoughts come up, just let them be, whatever they are, however difficult they are. Don't worry about them, okay? But when you are sitting in the trekchor, it's not a state of unconsciousness. Unconsciousness could be no thought. You could be in a state of no thought when you're unconscious because you're not thinking things. But that's not it. Because your space must be full of awareness. You must know. You must absolutely know. Otherwise, it's not your true essence. Can you all understand? And that's why we go pe, because pe shatters it and makes you come back to that thing. Sometimes you go on to a campaign of thinking, okay? And it's really important because John Merlin Reynolds writes and he says, the Dzogchen perspective, Rigpa is identical with Prajna Paramita. What did the Buddha teach when he taught the Prajna Paramita? He said, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. So are your eyes, your ears, your vision, your tongue, your speech, it's all emptiness. But it's got to have that awareness with it. Otherwise, that's not it. Okay, it's like the Prajna Paramita. Okay, it transcends all the extremes or limitations of existence and non-existence. It's absolutely, its nature is like space, but its character is luminous clarity. It illuminates everything within samsara and nirvana. It's the mother of all the Buddhas, because without relying on the state of immediate intrinsic awareness, we could not realize Buddhahood at all. This awareness abides as the base. That's the Dharmakaya, and it's present as the core of our being. Even now, it's primordially pure, and it's free of all the conceptual elaborations. I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. Okay, so you get it in one way or another. If we recognize this state and settle into it, this is the practice of Dzogchen. If we don't recognize it, then mind continues to erect thought constructions like the walls of a prison, limiting and confining our space until suffocation. Now, Jigme Lingpa, who is my absolute divine teacher, I mean, I took Jigme Lingpa's book, the Lama Yeshe, the Yeshe Lama book, which is, I mean, I took it with me on a retreat to India. And unfortunately, I mean, I had not, in the beginning of it, it says, if you do not have a teacher, then put this on your shrine, which I have done, and don't touch this book, okay? The Yeshe Lama, don't touch it, okay? Because you need a teacher to explain it. So I took it, I ordered it, took it with me, and went and was going to Taisitu Rinpoche. The only thing is that Taisitu Rinpoche got ill and never arrived at Cherubling, unlike that other retreat where he was there all the time. He wasn't even there. So I couldn't ask him. So on my retreat, when I was in deep contemplation, I just kept looking at it, and eventually I couldn't help myself. I just really studied it backwards, forwards, sideways. I read it about 20 times, and I read every single sentence about 4 times to actually get what he was saying, because I wanted it so badly. And I asked Guru Rinpoche to please forgive me. I said, because, you know, this was the only chance I was ever going to have to study it, and the teacher wasn't there. So I did it, which is probably part of my own karma. We have to figure things out a lot on my own, okay? But Jigme Lingpa said, aside from having this Rigpa not lose its own spot, nothing else is necessary in the world. So that's your goal. Every single day, every minute, you've now got a crisis in your family. You're not going you might have to go headlong into the crisis, whatever it is, for a moment. And then somewhere in the middle of dealing with a crisis, you just sit quietly and you just get that clear light, and you'll hear sounds in your ears, okay? That absolute, and you just sit for one moment, because what you're doing is you're getting a different view of this crisis that is facing you. And if you get it, then you know what to do. I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again, okay? Because it's really important. Because for all of you who are really, this little group of people is really devoted and dedicated to this going on an enlightened path. There is no doubt in my mind. That's why I can teach openly. I've tried to teach this openly many years ago, and it just didn't happen. Everybody just gave me that blank look. But even though a lot of you are not talking, you are not giving me a blank look. You are really seeing the seriousness of this. That's why I like your cameras on, because then I can see if you're getting it. David Hawker, I want to hear from you, because you asked me these things over all the years. So I want to know if this makes sense to you, if you get what I'm saying. Can you answer me?
Hi there. Yeah, you know, it certainly makes enough sense to keep my attention. At the same time, you know, the golden letters I find to be straightforward enough that it's not completely allegorical, and it's not It's not using analogy. It's just quite a direct teaching. The 3 points. Some of the teachings are so dogmatically allegorical, but when talking about, in particular, the heavens and the hells, and then the details of the hells, like in the minutiae, the detail of the hells, then it sounds very much, it triggers the Christian background I have with the heavens and the hells. Yet I know that the teaching is not about an actual heaven or an actual hell, that these are mind states that we create for ourselves. But I've just been going through the book, The Words of My Perfect Teacher, and it's so specific and almost dogmatic that I'm affronted by it from time to time, and it's off-putting because it's not allegorical in the way it's presented. And then I realized this was written, a long time ago on the subcontinent in a different culture and age. Whereas the golden letters, the translation is more specifically applicable, and I can really get value from that.
Brilliant. And I love what you say, because it's so interesting for me, because all these years I had to teach in that words of my perfect teacher way. Okay. And now I've reached old age, okay, and I've reached a point where if I don't teach what I really feel inside, I'm dead, okay, I'm dead. I mean, and when I go to a teaching, some of our beautiful lamas come and they teach like, this is how it is and this is what it is, and I can just see my whole being, and I would never tell anyone about it. My whole being is put off because I say to myself, if that's how it is, why don't I go back to Judaism? All my
exactly, yeah.
all my people were doing Pesach this year, Passover, with all the rules and regulations. And I said to myself, I'm sorry. If I said to my husband, if I was allowed to teach the liberation of, they would call it a soul in Judaism, but if I was allowed to teach the liberation of the consciousness, if you want to call it anything else, at the Passover Seder, then I'd go. Okay. Once I tried that many years ago, and my children were still here then, and they all said, Ma, shut up. Because everyone at the table was looking. I said, let's not just look at, and this was years ago. I said, when my children were still at home, I said, let's not just look at the liberation of the Jews from Egypt. If it really happened like that, I'm not sure it did or it didn't, I don't know. Let's look at the general liberation of beings into there. I mean, for me, I understand exactly what you're saying. But sometimes for people, a lot of people need that 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 because they go better with it than an open-ended way of being. So it's important that it exists for those that need it. But I, David, am really, really sick and tired of it, okay? I'm sick and tired of these. I want just a general spacious thing. And that's
the words of my perfect teacher hardly is talking about our essential goodness, our basic essential Buddha nature. It's only talking about just how effectively bad all levels of existence are, whether it's in the God realm, the human realm, the animal realm. It's just like you're screwed from top to bottom. And it's just quite a thing. And it's quite in contrast to our essential goodness and the 3 points of Garab Dorje.
100%. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I'm trying today, I don't know why, I wanted to really get through a lot more today, but you know what? I really, really want us to understand about developing Rigpa, and let's do a meditation on that, because I think it's really important. And I'm not going to put on that sound because according to Edith, when I put, do you want to say something? please.
Yeah, I always do just before the meditation. I think I've mentioned it before, but what might be easy, I was late coming in. But obviously, I'm assuming you said that we're going to do the aspiration prayer of Kuntu Zangpo, and whoever wants it must ask beneath. So human mind and our conditioning straight away had to message her. And then we are distracted from what you were going to say. So I have found, so when I'm listening to you, only way I can express it is I pop out my body. Or crack yourself open, like I've mentioned before, like I had this from a pistachio nut, cracking open. So now if you pop out your body or split yourself so that actual mind, which is the all is awareness, comes out and you listen from that,
Quite a good
then nobody would have asked for it now. They would have asked for it later.
Yeah. You see, I agree, but I don't think people know how to pop out, and I don't know how to pop out.
Right. It's so easy. That's what just try. Say, okay, this is human mind. I'm listening in a box, and I'm being taught in a box. But now, pop it out, because what is restricting us really is our body.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So I'm just saying it's a training. I mean, it doesn't come from anywhere. That's just my experience, my aha moment when I popped out.
Now you ask your Lama Lena when you go to a group what she thinks of that. I would be very interested.
Oh no, that's why she wants me up there.
Okay, because it would be very interesting to see what, because I think it would be ideal if we could all pop out of the body, but I think we're so conditioned thick in the body. You are a different kind of person. You probably popped out of your body all the time at school. I'm sure you did.
Oh God, yes.
To get through
always.
it. Yeah, I'm so
but you forget about it, and then like over 60 years, 70 years later, you suddenly remember, I popped out,
Because I think it's amazing, because when you pop out, you actually leave everything behind. But I think the idea is I think it's not the idea. You see, people have got the wrong idea in that they say you need to get rid of all your thoughts, feelings, your negative, or everything. It's wrong. Because if
it's to us.
Yeah, if you know that it's all made out of the same as the Dharmakaya essence, then
we're creating it. We are, it's our creation. That is,
So just liberate it, let it be. And as soon as you see the awareness and the ripa, as soon as you know and you recognize that your mind has gone there again, you bring it back and you have that awareness again. So you can't, every time you go down the same road, because remember, habit conditioning is really, really, really very difficult to change. When you habit conditioning, it's so difficult to change it because you just go back there all the time. But when you go back, you've got Rigpa awareness, immediate intrinsic awareness. I'm doing it again. And you come back to that spacious thing. And try and do, I think what you're saying is wonderful if people can do it, but try and do it.
Well, just to try and think, you know what I mean? Like to become aware and to know, okay, this is, I'm calling it human mind, to make it simple. But actually, I really am bodhicitta dhammakaya awareness.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier without the body. That's what I'm trying to say, which is our creation.
Yeah, and it's easier in your dream state, but a lot of people find that very difficult to do, And I'm finding that difficult to do now, and I used to have clear dreams all the time for years and years and years. And right now, and it must be my state of of not liking where I am, which has got to go to neutrality. It can't be anything else. It's got to be neutral. All is just as it should be. When you know that, when you know it with conviction, so much easier for all of you. So let's try.
Can I share just one thing, Mel? Hi, it's Nicola. Sorry, I'm driving, so I'm not on my camera.
Okay, but I want to text you, yeah? Tell me, Nick.
Sorry, that's why I'm just driving. But no, what I wanted to say is I think we've got to also, there's a different way. I know what you're saying about getting out of the body, but in fact, for me, my experience is the opposite. It's actually, it's not the body that's the problem. It's our conceptual mind.
Yeah.
And actually dropping into the body, accepting where you are, being in the present. And for me, I feel it strongly sort of in that heart, that heart center allows me to relax, and then the awareness can expand from that. So rather to not reject the body and the human experience and want to get out of it, but rather just listening almost from the heart-centered awareness and allowing yourself to open in that sort of gentle way. There's nothing wrong with being in a body. It's just sort of our thinking about it. That's the issue.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you see, I think for Karen, it's always easy because she's had this spirituality from, I think from the time she was born. And then her life took her through these very difficult circumstances, in a body. And I think she probably coped with her life by just leaving the body all the time. But I agree with you. That's what I'm trying to do. And I have no way of leaving the body. I just can bring my mind to a different state. And I agree exactly with what you're saying. So thanks for that. Let's go to the meditation. I'm not going to switch on the audio. Just know that I am giving you a gong. If you've got one in your room, you can. So let's breathe in and breathe out. And very importantly, check your body. Check all the areas that are tense. Check them by going through them, tensing up even more, and then breathing into them, total relaxation. It's really important that you start from the feet or the top of your head and move right through into relaxation. Without relaxing your physical body, you will never be able to do the trekche or the dzogchen practice of contemplation. Remember, immediate intrinsic awareness, or rigpa, abides in the base. It's the Dharmakaya itself. You are the Dharmakaya. You are the Dharmakaya. In his direct introduction, the master likens the base to the empty, open dimension of the infinite sky. I'm going to read that again. The empty, open dimension of the infinite sky. And if you're looking in the sky, it's even easier. While Rigpa, its capacity for awareness, is like the sun shining in the sky. The energy, the potentiality of awareness, like countless rays of sunlight that illuminate all things in the world. Even when the sky is filled with clouds, the sun is always there. Otherwise, you would have total darkness. Even when we're getting the most terrible storm and the sky is filled with black clouds, it's not total darkness, because the sun, the absolute awareness, the capacity for awareness is never gone. Buddha nature is the same, always there. The mark of its presence, even unrecognized, is that we exist as sentient beings in our bodies, possessing awareness and consciousness. Because of its presence, this presence existed in the universe from the very beginning, like a vast expanse of space, not made by a creator. In essence, it transcends time and condition. And we begin to see that awareness did not come into being out of existence. The awareness was always there and created the existence that we've got in our lives. We have essence, we have its nature, which is clear, clarity, luminosity, awareness, and we have its energy, uninterrupted, unobstructed, all pervasive throughout existence. The duality, the putting together of emptiness and luminosity. And those three aspects, essence, nature, and unlimited capacity or energy, are already in us. In earlier kind of working with ourselves on the Buddhist path, they are separate. But in the Dzogchen, all three go together. And it's really important that we understand this totally. So just your open spaciousness, which is filled with awareness. It's not just emptiness, it's emptiness and total awareness. Sit in it. Don't get restless. Just breathe in and breathe out. And feel your own nature. It makes you sit up straight with your shoulders back. And it makes you realize who you really are and how you can operate in this world with awareness. We are taking ourselves beyond intellectual fabrication. That's what Karen was talking about, beyond the intellect fabricating and analyzing everything. Just total freeness, spaciousness, and total intrinsic presence. So I didn't get very far on all of this, but I feel that if you can understand this, then you can get this golden letters. It's really important. I mean, and if you're bored with it, if you're not enjoying it, tell me, because then I'll go on to another subject. But for me, it's everything we need in our lives. Everything. So let's dedicate, and then I will leave it open. I will stay on if people want to ask their questions, because it's so important that you get this. So important that you get this. Otherwise, you absolutely can't do it. And so if there's anything to be gotten from the talk today and your perceptions and everything, then please let it change the world. Let people realize that the leaders who are completely bound in their egos, let all of them come to some kind of realization. Let them awaken, or else let them be bound. And let us really, really, really have some of this go out into the world. And through this merit, may all beings attain omniscience. May all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam diye tamche zipane tobne nepe dranam pamshene jeganachi bala tropaye sipe sole doa do warsho. And Guru Rinpoche, from my heart right into you, in me, may we really, really, may your mandala permeate this earth. You're the embodiment of all the Buddhas. May it permeate this earth so that we can change things into a beautiful, pure state, which is really important. So let's stop.